So Judd Cornell, best coach ever, now running Nebraska golf.
Yeah, now he's the main guy. So I'm like so stoked about that. I don't know why. I just thought of this because I saw Tim ask about golf.
Oh yeah. What? I guess.
He asked me what was my peak performance of like my peak handicap, and I was like,
I've got a really simple answer for that. It's probably like 6 fireballs and a scotch. That is his peak handicap.
That is literally my peak handicap. Like, I'm not even kidding. Someone fed me fireball just to get me messed up, so I couldn't read the greens during a money game.
Joke's on you. Golfed better.
Well, up to a certain point, and then by hole 12, after my 8th fireball shot, golfed worse.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, 2 bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy.
Okay, so welcome back to Drunkenomics, the drinking podcast with an economics problem, and welcome to the weirdest recession ever.
Yes, seriously.
Because some of our markers say recession, like the big one being 2 quarters of negative growth.
Yeah.
2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
The list goes on, really. I mean, like, inverted yield curve.
Inverted yield curves, which suggests we're in recession or about to be.
Yeah. I mean, the labor market's tightening, but at the same time, the labor market is still really strong, so it's kind of like, what,
Yeah, and what it boils down to in the end is that depending on which metric you look at, there are arguments to be had that this is not a recession. My response is, though, the most basic definition is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. We've had that. We are in a recession, or were. It's entirely possible to say we were in a recession.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the weirdest recession of my life.
Because we easily could be out of it by now. But before we go deeper into that rabbit hole, I'd like to introduce myself. Totally skipped that. I am so close to being the more gracious host, but not. The VIX is at 2050 right now. We're actually recording during a live training session. Like, we usually record after every session. Right now,
yeah, I guess there's still an hour, 2 hours.
There's still 1 hour. There's still half an hour left, I think, of trading. About a little over a half an hour. We're recording Thursday. It's weird. A lot of life events happening, so that's why we missed last week.
And we'll fill you in. We'll fill you in next week with greater details.
Absolutely. We won't leave you hanging, but and a lot of life events happening, which is why we're recording on a weird Thursday, August, the 11th, at about half an hour to go in the trading session today.
Absolutely.
VIX is at 2043 now. SPY is at 420.
So by the end of this episode, you might be the more gracious host.
Very easily. I mean, I hope so. I kind of missed that throne, man.
It'd be funny to sign in as one and sign out as the other.
I know. That actually would be pretty funny. That's never happened before. But my name is Aaron Wong. Joined alongside the freaking gracious,
currently more gracious host, James Goldwater.
Yeah. And I'll just be honest with you. Next week, so we made a bet, in case you guys want some insight on what we're do.
We're doing what we can to get Aaron back into gracious form.
Yeah, we make random bets every now and then. And this week, it was SPY is going to close below 400, which is the Spider State Street S&P ETF Trust. Like, I thought they were going to close below 400 this week, but they're at 420.
They still got a day.
Yeah, but what is that? 5% in?
It's not an insubstantial amount. It'd have to go. And there were points where I was worried when I was looking at when the chip guys were giving their guidance, their earnings. I was like,
was that Micron?
Aaron's probably going to win this.
Micron started that.
Well, before that, Nvidia kind of gave.
Oh, right, yeah, that's
a negative guidance.
But I guess like the main story, because I forget what the last thing we talked about was, since it was about 2 weeks ago. But it was the whole. I think that was right when GDP numbers came out. Right? Was that the last time we all had a drink together?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, by that classical definition, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, that's exactly what happened. In my opinion, there's a bunch of other things that make me think that we're in a recession, but I also have a tough time looking at the labor market and saying, okay, well, the labor market is still really strong. It is tightening, but it's still really strong.
Yeah, no, it's
CapEx really isn't slowing down.
No. There was a lot of free money, and there's still a lot of things being purchased. So
there's still almost there's still like an $8.5 trillion now, where I think is what it's at, the $8.5 trillion balance sheet that still needs to be unwound, or however you say it.
Unwound, yeah.
Unwound.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I look at so labor market might tell us that no, we're not in a recession.
Yeah.
Increasing wages tells us that we're not in a recession.
Yeah, but it's also inflation. Real wages aren't going up. Supply chain issues all over the place.
Exactly.
Consumer sentiment super weak.
And let's put it this way: consumer sentiment, that spirit animals. We have an episode on it historically. Yeah. We've talked about it. It's that if enough people decide that bad times are coming, they're right. if enough
Yeah.
people decide that good times are coming, they're right. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. It's that feedback loop.
And when we talked about the animal spirits, I mean, it was when times I think were still much more normal, which by that I mean pre-COVID, or like February of right when COVID was happening. I think that's when we talked about animal spirits, right before everything shut down. I think that was the first time we talked about it. But at that time, you know, like we were talking about the inverted yield curve, or the yield curve was about to invert around that time. And we're kind of like joking around. Okay, maybe the inverted yield curve is what causes the animal spirits to force us into a recession, because as soon as they see that inversion, there's a panic, because every single time that 2 to 10 inverts, it causes some sort of.
And then the question is, is this an indicator that people who are thinking that there's going to be a recession, they're driving that inversion because they're making their plays, their activities are what causes that. So,
so where does it start? Right?
It's actually an indicator of something that's already happening. And so then when enough people pile on, it's very much that, how do you swamp a lifeboat where you just keep adding, people to it.
So I don't know. I think it's at the beginning of the year when I looked up the definition of a recession, and this was in February of 2022 when I looked it up. The official definition was literally pretty much whenever the NBER says it's a recession.
Whereas
that's when I wrote that article.
Yeah, whereas I remember in my econ books, every class, we talked about it, said, nope, it's two consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. You enter recession, you enter technical recession.
Yeah, it's always like what I'm used to like referring to as a recession. And then, for some reason, when I looked it up earlier this year, I was like, wait, what? I could have sworn the actual definition was not just whenever the NBER says it is a recession, which right now, no one has actually said it's officially a recession. Like, nobody from the government has said that. Still,
it's this. So the NBER makes
they look at a lot of things. I mean, they're very meticulous about it. And don't get me wrong,
they're not just firing from the hip here. They have evidence to suggest, like, they have evidence and they have reasons why they make their come to the conclusions they come to.
Yeah, they're not going to see strong economy and be like, okay, well, we don't like the administration, so recession. They can't do that. They're still going to look at still going to look at like employment, wage growth, actual production output.
Yeah, so there's clearly something is, and in the end, what it's going to boil down to, I think, is what they're looking at is they're saying, okay, the real reasons for all these issues isn't production and purchasing, and the reason for that is because it's not, things can't get from A to B, so we have supply chain issues remaining. I mean, not that they're getting, supply chain issues in the U.S. So. Yeah, I mean, let's look at, supply chain issues is now a global thing because, it was a global, it's always been a global thing, but it's worse now because you've got in the U.S., you don't have enough Teamsters, which is, you're not driving trucks.
Yeah, well, the longshoremen in California are still, I haven't heard any good news about the protests, or not the protests, but the strikes that are going on in Oakland or whatever. Yeah.
You have that, you have, if you're in Western Europe, if you're in Germany, Belgium, you've got issues because you're seeing that the Rhine is at historically.
Oh, the Rhine River
is it very low? There is a severe drought, and so the Rhine is at a water levels are very low, and that means that the Rhine, which is a major shipping medium in Europe, is now there's a risk that it may not be usable.
Yeah, and I kept seeing these BBC articles this week that kept saying, someone in England, someone in Germany, someone in Spain, someone like a bunch of farmers in all these different European countries saying every day where it doesn't rain, the pressure mounts or something along those lines. I kept seeing that. Oh yeah,
I know. I was looking at Italy. Italy's having some there's strong concerns about Italian wine and olives, about whether or not this drought is going to destroy the crop this year.
That hits pretty close to home, I would say. Yeah, that's I like wine, so I don't drink as much when we record, but like I do like
that's wine and charcuterie boards right there.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't know what to do. That's olive oil at the very least. Possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that.
I mean, as if having a palm oil shortage wasn't bad enough. Yeah, now we may have an olive oil shortage because Italian olives are out. Yeah, no, it's definitely there's.
And speaking of the Asian side, like because of the palm, you mentioned the palm oil.
Absolutely, out of Malaysia. Yeah,
but like the big thing I think since the last time we spoke was last week. Nancy Pelosi went and visited Taiwan. We haven't talked about that yet. I don't think.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, highest ranking official to do so
in 25 years. Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. Like personally, not a big Nancy Pelosi fan.
I'll be honest,
neither
am I.
Fan. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, not a big fan at all of Nancy Pelosi, but I gotta be honest with you. When she does, I do applaud this move.
I think she's a fantastic parliamentarian.
Absolutely.
Like, so what I said, of course. I respect her as a legislator. I don't like her as a person.
Right.
I think is kind of the easiest thing.
And I have I have pretty high regard for this position just because I understand the brevity of the position that she holds.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a hard job.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you work for me. You work for us. So like taxpayers.
Funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah, no, seriously. It's funny how ironic that is. I mean, that with everybody else that works on the Hill, but yeah, she went to Taiwan. China wasn't too thrilled about it. Like what China did, they've literally
and is still doing.
They're still doing it. I mean, they're shooting missiles all around Taiwan.
And they're doing.
And the Taiwanese government really hasn't been they seem pretty cowardly about it. The whole narrative, Chinese.
I don't know
Chinese
about.
Don't look up.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's a little more blasé and dismissive. It's just it's not a big deal. And I'm like, it kind of is. But I understand you're not wanting to incite a panic.
Yeah,
it's kind of
exactly
best way to look at that.
Yeah, but I think where they're coming from, I don't want to say coward is probably a harsh word. So maybe not that. But what I'm trying to say is I think the reason why the Taiwanese government and Taiwan media is saying this whole "don't look up" narrative, I think is because I feel like if they say, "Hey, China, this is not cool, stop doing it," then China is actually gonna take action. Well, you don't like this?
It's gonna ratchet it up.
All right, well, what if you do this instead?
I think
but you like that either.
So here's what I will say. So before Nancy went, before Speaker Pelosi went into Taiwan, the China, Beijing was saying this is a needless provocation. Why are you going there? Well, it makes sense, right. And it does kind of violate that polite fiction that everyone agrees to, that Taiwan is not an independent country. It doesn't have its own passport, its own president. It's not a democracy that trades independently with the rest of the world. Don't worry about it. So she goes. Now, I've met some people that have said the White House didn't want her to go. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it didn't. But here's the thing. At the same time, maybe they publicly stated, we don't want her to go to Taiwan. They did move a carrier battle group off the east coast of Taiwan, and they moved in a Marine Corps, it was the USS Tripoli, off of Okinawa to the northeast. So essentially, there were approximately 100 U.S. fighter aircraft sitting there just waiting.
Yeah, well, 2 weeks ago, I think the Ronald Reagan went over there. So I think now we have 4 carriers. The U.S. has 4 carriers in the South China Sea.
Well, in the area.
Yeah.
So the last time...
Yeah, they're either in the area or they're going to be in the area soon.
Yeah,
so
I've moved. So the last time there was a major crisis with Taiwan was over the strait, and it was in 1995. And what the U.S. did to calm tensions and shut everything down is they sailed a carrier battle group through the strait. They put a carrier group through the strait. Now, we're not going to do that this time. But my guess is that someone in the Navy has gone, it's a really bad idea to put one of our carriers through the strait right now.
Yeah.
Because
one carrier is a big deal, but if a carrier sinks, that's a big deal. So,
well, yeah, and that's the big thing is if
it goes through the strait,
if China decides to come at it at that point, it would be silly. So there's this big idea that
I honestly think that
was the Taiwan Strait crisis in 1995. And so there's this. I think what China's doing, or Beijing is doing, is they hope that this will get declared another crisis, because it seems like the U.S. isn't particularly interested in.
Yeah.
Now, what has Beijing done? Beijing has declared firing missiles over Taiwan. They are declared live fire exercises surrounding the island.
Yeah, it's literally
enacting a de facto blockade.
Yeah,
it's a de facto blockade.
Yeah, I was going to say the way the Chinese carriers are formed,
bracketed,
around Taiwan. It's literally surrounding the entire country.
It is. And
so if you're in Taiwan, you can't go too far east of Taiwan if you're going on a fishing trip or something.
Yeah. So if you're also if you're a commercial ship, you're not going to go through those zones, because you're like, well, that's not a great plan. So there is to an extent some blockading of Taiwan, which kind of begs the question of why doesn't if we got a question in the Discord, which if you want to join the Discord, just go ahead and check us out at on Meta on Twitter at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL.
You mean Facebook and Instagram?
On Meta Twitter, DRUNKENOMICAL.
Nice.
There we go. And check us out there. You can find the official permanent invite to the Discord. You can jump in there and you can have yours say.
Yeah,
I have my own opinions. I will answer that question. I will answer that question in the Discord at some point. I have been thinking about it. I've really liked some of the responses I've seen.
We're talking about Todd's. Let's say China invades Taiwan. That kind of
one. So hypothetical. Question. So the really simple question of kind of like, who's a winner there, and the answer is Intel. But that's it, and only for a little while, right? So
that's still not. Yeah.
It's really in the end it's not. Yeah. In the end, there's really no winners. Because I think you look at this. Taiwan has become a very interesting question at this point. Of China thinks it's part of China, and I would argue that the U.S. would have some valid points if they were to say that the Taiwanese semiconductor industry is so important to the existence of the United States that the idea that Taiwan would become part of mainland China, an adversary at best, would create an existential crisis for this country.
Yeah.
And so I think
for a lot of countries
are quite high,
too. Not even just the U.S., but for a lot of countries.
Yeah,
so,
but for the U.S. specifically, there's this issue now of problem. And so, is China going to do anything? No, because in the end, I think that the Taiwanese have embraced the whole poison pill view.
Well, I think
and so if you're wondering, we have an old episode of Throwback. This is a throwback to that, but you check out our hostile takeover episode.
Oh, yeah.
It very much applies to geopolitics too. What they would do is, I imagine they would sabotage the semiconductor industry within Taiwan.
I don't necessarily think so. If Taiwan does do that, if they do the poison pill tactic to avoid a hostile takeover.
No. I'm saying in the event of an invasion.
Yeah, but
you're coming. Well, we're gonna blow that up because now your economic reasons for coming here are bad.
But China, I don't necessarily think China is after Taiwan for economic purposes.
No, it's not. But what I'm saying, but you have to. If someone's going to invade, you can't let them take something that would then make them stronger for doing it. You need them to
Okay,
pay
so
all this blood.
I hear what you're saying, but
you know what I mean?
I think if China does invade Taiwan, there's no the blowing up of the semiconductor foundries.
It wouldn't prevent an invasion. No.
I mean, the takeover will still happen exactly the way they want to take over Taiwan. But I get it. Like now, I'd rather China take over Taiwan without the foundries than with the foundries.
Yeah.
So
the end is you'd want them to not have what a benefit when they got there. You'd want them to be
okay.
You want them to be like,
yeah.
Great. What was the point again? Other than just owning the place?
Yeah.
So that's that. As I said, but China didn't shoot down Nancy Pelosi's jet. Didn't begin an invasion of Taiwan yet. And so
they said though that it was like an act of war, her going over there and meeting with the president and the CEOs of all those semiconductor companies. Like they said it was an act of war, but they didn't do anything because they can't. Like they
there's
if they really want to play chicken with us, they'd be screwed. Because they're probably looking at us going like, okay, well, if you really want to start a war with us, we can hit the sell button if they hit the sell button, that would suck. But we can also hit the sell button too. And that would suck even more for them.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it hurts. We're also their biggest customer, so it hurts that they need our agricultural imports in mainland China. They need us to buy their products. And I think that both sides get hurt there, but they get hurt more. Yeah, that's me. There is a Russian phrase that comes to mind after what happened with Taiwan last week, and it's China's final warning, which is a Russian phrase that means there were absolutely no consequences. So it was little dog barking, right? You're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I feel like that's kind of, that's not outside of the realm of China's characteristics. It's just, this little dog barking saying like, don't do this. Please don't do it. I swear if you do it, I'll do this. And then nothing really happens.
Well, the thing is they don't want to... The U.S. doesn't want a war. China doesn't want a war. But in the end, it would happen. There'd be a conventional war.
Yeah,
and I
hope not. But I hope someone just backs down. But I think it's just it's kind of like immovable object and unstoppable force. And, let's
today we're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't.
It's a continuation.
That encounter hasn't happened yet. But I think what it's going to come down to is either China has a change of heart, and when I say change of heart, I mean change of leadership, and that leadership says, you know what, screw it. I don't care about China. I don't care about Taiwan.
Yeah.
So,
and there may be some underlying economic conditions that suggest that China's less stable than they think.
Yeah.
Than it would like to project.
And they're having a lot of internal issues too with the bank protests. The Chinese people are starting to lose their faith and their trust in the Chinese government, which I think, cool, man. Honestly,
that seems fair.
Yeah. But what are we doing in the States to kind of protect ourselves from the event of a Taiwanese takeover in case we
in case it doesn't get prevented?
Well,
we're doing some pretty cool stuff. We're putting a huge amount of money into helping domestic chip manufacturers.
Yeah, I was going to say the CHIPS Act.
The CHIPS Act, which gives a huge amount of money both to Taiwan semiconductors, but that's because but only can be used to build semiconductor foundries in your neck of the woods in Arizona.
Yeah, nice. So, dang, I thought you were talking about. I thought the CHIPS Act was about like I could get free Doritos for the rest of my life.
Unfortunately, no.
Dang it!
Nor can you get Pringles.
Oh man, I can't even get the Pringles either. I love the Pringles.
You're thinking about the Cheetos Act of not. I don't know.
Dang it!
It was bad, and I feel bad.
The Cheetos Act would have been a lot cheaper. So I mean, they could have just done that. Hey, that would have actually reduced inflation. So
yeah, what else
for me?
How do you think they get Oh, Cheetos. Just how do you think they turn the puffs into the crunchy ones? They just reduce the inflation. I feel really bad.
That was awful, but whatever.
But I stand
I'll drink
by
to
it.
it, whatever. But yes.
How do you think I got there?
Oh, yeah, by drinking two other things.
Yes.
Fireball, that's what it was.
Woo.
Hot Cheetos, hot Fireball. But, okay, so Biden, the CHIPS Act was signed. So what was it? The $280 billion package that's supposed to increase semiconductor production here in the States, build foundries
Yeah, so
in Arizona.
it's to bring back the semiconductor chip manufacturing into the U.S., right? So it's $53 billion for the manufacture of semiconductor chips. A lot of that's going to go to Intel.
Yeah, and then $200 billion on
TSMC.
top of that for research, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then,
And the thing is, we've already got a lot of the research being done in the U.S. So we have NVIDIA, we have a lot of these companies who are U.S.-based, who do a lot of the development, but a lot of them spun off the manufacturing of the chips to someone else. They just do design because it's more lucrative. So it was lucrative, and they made more money, and now they're going, well, actually, that was probably a bad idea, so let's bring that back. All right, so long-term consequences versus short-term gain. So we'll see where that goes. But it turns out if you get the government to backstop your return it later and you get to pocket the profits initially, good call.
Yeah.
From a purely financial standpoint.
Yeah, but I feel like overall, like hopefully there's a good ROI on this thing. I don't know because I feel
I think there should be.
There should be. I mean, but government spending is always just awful. Like it's everything costs way too much. But that's just they wouldn't be themselves if they were really good and efficient at spending money.
I'll be honest. If the government was efficient at anything, I'd be concerned. That's just how I feel.
But no, I hear what you're saying. I know where you're coming from. But because I would like for them to be efficient. But it's I hear exactly where you're coming from because it's like if they're
I'd like that too, but if they actually were, I'd be like,
so
you're entirely too competent right now.
I'd be like, let me see the labor expenditures. Let's just start there. See why labor is so cheap.
What's going on?
Yeah. So I hear you in that sense, but like it's
speaking. I mean, really speaking of U.S. government inefficiency, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
Let's try and spend our way out of inflation.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I understand that it takes it's going to take 10 years to to actually spend all that money, and I think a lot of it is going to be spent in terms of tax returns. But also, wasn't that bill the one wasn't in that bill the clause for the 87,000 IRS agents too? And they're gonna go after Venmo or something like that, just so if they see like a routine $1,000 a month, like if I Venmo you $1,000 every single month, and they'd be like, okay, well that counts as ordinary income because Aaron's Venmoing James for rent.
Yeah, so part of the Inflation Reduction Act is that it's actually giving the IRS its first real funding boost in 2 decades, $80 billion. So 87. They're talking about 87,000 IRS agents. Well, you say that. I think it should be because in the end, if you're audited by the IRS, it's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to deny that, but at the same time, you need people to enforce the tax code, or people who are smart enough or have enough money will just stop paying. I mean, we see that with billionaires. They simply decided they didn't want to pay taxes, and so they stopped. Yeah, and there's no one there to audit them.
Yeah, but they did it in a legal way, right? I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it's legal. So.
It's legal in that there aren't enough auditors there to stop them. So when people are like, "Oh, what do you mean they're hiring 87,000 IRS agents?" What does that mean? It means they're looking to staff up 87,000 accountants. Yeah. People who sit there and who actually look at documents and go, "These numbers are correct." So here's the thing:
it's gonna take forever
the only
to do
reason
that,
you should be oh, absolutely, because there aren't enough accountants, as is.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If you're sitting here going, oh, there's just more IRS agents, this is bad, my response is, are you paying all the taxes you should be paying? Are you, in good faith, doing the right thing with your taxes? And if the answer is yes, this will not affect you. Yeah. And if the answer is no, well, if we could trust you to do the right thing, we wouldn't need IRS agents. Since we can't trust you because you're not trustworthy, you've acted in that fashion, we will compel you.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I made the joke that okay, they're gonna finance the Inflation Reduction Act by hiring 87,000 IRS agents to close up some tax loopholes and find out all the tax debt that people owe from 2010 until now. And that's how they're going to finance for the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know. I made that joke somewhere on Twitter. I don't know if people bought it, but I can't remember exactly what I said, but I thought it was pretty clever. I just wanted to give our Twitter kind of shameless plug.
But I'll say this is the Inflation Reduction Act just based on a simple, on my reading of it, doesn't do a whole lot about inflation.
No, it really doesn't.
It looks like it's a tax reform and spending bill or spending package, but that's great marketing. If you can market it as one thing but do something totally different, why not? Yeah. I mean, because if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, it's got $300 billion for energy and climate reform. $60 billion of that is incentives for the construction of renewable infrastructure,
Right.
renewable energy infrastructure, right? So solar panels and wind turbine and the manufacturing of said products.
Yeah, but
It
it's
has tax
still-
credits for electric vehicles, making homes more energy
Yeah,
efficient.
but it's still money being spent. Like, so like all that,
Absolutely.
I get that. Like,
Or-
it could actually cut back on energy costs, but like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just don't. But it's still money being spent. So
Absolutely, which, that doesn't help inflation necessarily.
no.
The other thing is, like, it's like, okay, if you're giving these tax credits, then all you're doing is, there's this idea that, like, welfare is evil, but tax credits are smart, and the difference between the two of them is zero. It's just
Yeah.
poor people get welfare and wealthy people get tax credits, and
Yeah.
that's it. Other than that, the government is giving you money. So
Yeah.
yeah, tax credits for electric vehicles, which only helps wealthy people. Making homes more energy efficient really only helps wealthy people and or homeowners.
Yeah.
There's this claim these actions are going to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40%, right, by 2030, but that's based on 2005 levels. And I guess my question is how a 17-year-old metric
Yeah.
for greenhouse gases is in any way, shape, or form the metric we want to use.
Right.
Like, and if you know,
it's-
if maybe you're someone who studied this, and 2005 is just the year that everyone is the base year. Like, because what is it, like $1985 is kind of that base dollar
Right,
year
yeah,
now
the-
that they
yeah,
use.
The 1980 or I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, but so
Something about
again,
the
so
dollar
if
index
it's
or
the same
whatever it
thing,
is,
if that's just the year that they use as the base year versus like there's that $1 where we talk about that's the dollar where $1 is $1, and now we've got deflation before that and inflation after that,
Yeah.
then that makes sense maybe, and I'm a little more pessimistic. There's some other things in it that have really nothing to do with inflation at all. Well, sort of have to do with inflation in that there's a cap on out-of-pocket costs for medication for Medicaid members. It keeps
Oh.
Affordable Care Act subsidies in place that were enacted during 2010, in place for 3 more years beyond today. So
the out-of-pocket caps I actually kind of like.
I do
you know.
too. I absolutely no. I agree.
I mean-
like, you need to rein in medical spending.
Yeah, I
medical
mean,
costs.
I'll be honest with you.
It's-
Like, I'm with you. I think this bill is very dumb. But there's clauses like that I think are
There's parts that
good.
make sense. For me, the tax reforms are my favorite part. Like, I look at the tax, like the medical parts, I'm like, these are fantastic. That's good. This should be done. That should have been done. I'm glad it's law now. In
So-
tax reforms, there's
Are you talking
now
about the tax rate on corporations?
yeah,
For
so
the-
it's like a 15% minimum tax rate on corporations
Is that-
earning $1 billion or more per
Is
year,
that
right?
top
So
and bottom line
bottom minimum
tax rate.
So, like,
no, I'm saying like
so-
on revenue or on profits.
well, you
know.
can only tax profit. You can't
Right.
tax.
Yeah, well,
You only ta- you only
I know,
tax
but I know
most
that
expense-
for a while they flirted with the idea of taxing revenues. So
Yeah,
I was like,
so to me is that's hard because you have a lot of pre-tax expenses that are legitimate expenses to,
Right.
So this is where the auditors are going to come in, right? The auditors will come in
Yeah.
and they'll go, this expense isn't valid, this expense isn't valid, this expense, you're deliberately lowering your profit.
yeah,
But
like
you're not
depreciation.
actually
Whoa, that doesn't make any sense, right?
that's
Or
excessive
whatever,
depreciation.
yeah.
You're not incurring
A non-cash-
legitimate expenses.
Yeah, non-cash expense. And then what's the
So-
the stock buybacks? I agree with that one too. I think that's a good tax
Huge,
reform.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that one doesn't go into place until January 1st, 2023, but
Yeah.
it's a 1% excise tax on stock buybacks, right? So that's expected to raise $70 billion a year.
Yeah, but for a little context, was there a tax imposed on stock buybacks prior to this?
No,
Okay.
no, you could spend corporate money to raise your share price and make
Yeah.
you and your fellow owners of the company wealthier,
So-
all without incurring. You could see. So essentially, it was this
Yeah.
idea that it was a legitimate expense, and there's times where buying back your own stock is legitimate,
Right.
But when your bonuses and when people are borrowing money against stock, like Elon Musk does,
Yeah.
or like a lot of wealthy people do, when you're doing that and you're using, and you as a manager or a CEO
Yeah.
of a company are using the corporate money to drive up your share price,
Drive-
that you
yeah.
to drive up your own personal wealth. Yeah, there's this idea like, okay, you're self-dealing there,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily fair. And
Yeah.
and there's more legitimate ways to use your money. Why don't you pay your
Yeah.
employees more? That's also a pre-tax expense that
Yeah,
can lower
exactly.
your tax liability. Why
Other-
don't you expand your business? Why don't you do something
Yeah.
real? Why are you doing
So, question about stock buybacks. Whenever a company spends its cash on stock buybacks, does that narrow the profit margin? Does that narrow the profits that they have to
Absolutely.
end up paying taxes on?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
of
really?
course.
That
It's
counts
legit-
as.
yeah.
I thought it was
It's
purely
an-
operations, though, for some reason. Like the
No,
the
investments,
profits.
all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess. I'm saying like, but cash,
Your cash
from,
flows from-
cash flows from investments and operations. I thought that was like profits, but I guess does that count as investments if your cash flows from investments if you spend a ton of money on buybacks? Would that be on that page?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, no, that is a legitimate. It is a legitimate use of your
Gotcha.
corporate money.
It's been a long time
It's
since I looked
legitimate.
at a
There's-
statement of cash flows.
Yeah, no.
So,
Oh yeah, no. The cash is gone because we used income to purchase our own shares
own
back,
equity,
and it's
yeah.
treated no differently
Yeah.
than if you bought shares in someone else.
yeah. Well, so this is the thing. So I don't mind I don't mind the tax. I know for someone with my political leanings, that's something that is most people on my side of the fence are what? This is stupid. This is a bad tax reform. I actually kind of like it. I think it keeps corporations honest. My only big worry is this. My only big worry about this is that there's a slippery slope after it. But that's not like that's really a fallacy. So
yeah, a slippery slope argument. You could make one, but the thing is, and the question everyone for those wondering, like a slippery slope argument, well, someone goes, well, if you're doing this, where does it stop? And the answer to that is somewhere. It does stop. It will stop.
Well,
but saying
it stops at 100%.
But saying, well, it could go above that, but not for long. Yeah, no, it stops somewhere. But you know, when people are, I kind of hate arguing people that use slippery slope fallacies, where they're like, well, if you do that, it doesn't solve this problem, or that's a slippery slope on the way to this, and I'm like, fine.
Yeah, I feel like
making murder illegal is a slippery slope on the road to saying that you can't. That manslaughter is not okay. So someone might do something later,
right? But the thing is, the last thing I would not the last thing I would want, but like one thing I don't want to happen is a 50% excise tax on stock buybacks. I don't want that.
No, it's expensive. It's expensive, and it seems that would seem punitive. But
yeah, but 1%, 1% to me, not a big deal.
Yeah, essentially, what the government's done is all they said is, okay, fine. If you're going to lower your income, we're just going to get it here. We're going to try and get some money here.
Yeah.
If that's all you're doing. So if your legitimate purpose is buying back shares to pay out stock options or do whatever instead of issuing new shares, all you have to now say is, okay, on top of what we're paying, there's a 1% broker. For lack of a better term, it's no different than a broker fee.
Right.
It's who you're paying it to.
Like whenever you do an M&A deal, like, you know, for instance, like when I'm trying to think of the last big acquisition, Frontier and Spirit, or I forget.
Yeah, it's the one that's going. That's the one that's going through.
That's one that just comes to mind because I was just on a plane recently. But like, so that one, for instance, big M&A fee, right? That you're gonna pay to some investment bank. So this is kind of like that, you know, when you're, when you're acquiring some shares. Yeah, 1%, not a big deal, right? I'm not totally against it. I don't love it, but I honestly, I think it keeps everybody honest. So yeah, I think those things actually do kind of could reduce inflation, but the act overall, you want to reduce inflation, make us we need to produce more things.
Yeah,
we need more things and less money.
We need more things to buy. We either need less money to buy less things, or more things to buy with the more money we have, or we need need more things and less money.
More things, less money, which sounds bad because it's like less. No one likes less money, but like that's what we need right now. We need, and our M1 M2 money supply is out of control.
What we need is we probably need some combination of the two, which is to say we need more things to buy, and we probably need a little less money to buy it with.
Yeah, well,
I don't mean individually. I just mean like out there in general, and so that would allow markets to return to.
Yeah, well, that'll just make things cheaper, right?
In theory, or at least it would make prices more consistent. Because we did get the July inflation report Wednesday, which shows 8.5% year-over-year inflation.
Why did we get excited about that? Why did everybody get excited?
Because everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be higher."
Well, PPI came out this morning too, and that still came in pretty good, beat expectations by 0.5%, I think.
Yeah,
and then,
but in the end, if you really look at it, what's causing that? A slump in energy prices.
Yeah, really.
That's it. It's not a real solution. There's no real solution there. It's not like when they say "Oh, things are getting better." I'm like, no.
I think I know
gas prices.
I'll be honest with you. I think I know exactly why CPI came in at 8.5%, which was slightly better than expected. You ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna blow your mind. 75 basis points twice.
Should have been.
And that's how he died. No, obviously that's not genuine. Like I don't think 75 basis points twice necessarily solved everything.
Here's the real funny thing. All right, so let's ask this then. Emergency Fed meeting for August, yay or nay?
I don't think it's going to happen.
I think you're right. I think they should have one, but I don't think they will.
I think they saw 8.5%, and they're like, "Oh my god, it didn't go up! What a miracle!" I'm like,
no. It went up less than we feared it would. It didn't go down.
Well, but
that's the thing.
But I'm saying for the month of June, like it was what was it? What was the June print? The CPI print for June was like 9%. Was it 9.1 or?
Yeah.
So the fact that CPI is going down, it's going in the correct direction. I think they're just like, all right, our job was done. That July meeting, that really did it.
Yeah, it was 9.1 in June and 8.5 in July.
Yeah, so I think
CPI was 8.5%.
I think they should.
Yeah, which is a slowdown.
I think they should. I think they should just like whenever I don't know when Jackson Hole is, but it's coming up here pretty soon. Is it next weekend or the weekend after, or not next weekend, but next week or the weekend after? Whenever Jackson Hole is, I hope they just sit there and go, guys, we need another meeting. like even if it's just to pump up interest rates by like 0.5%, like it's still, I think it keeps us on a better pace.
I think that's the thing is taking a 2-month break doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Especially since like it's September and now you're going into Thanksgiving and holiday season. It's like, oh, okay. No, you need to keep deal with the issue.
But I also
don't be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine.
I mean, like I don't know. Like, do you want to kill demand? I mean, you're not really going to kill demand, but like if you raise interest rates, you're going to slow demand down. Obviously, that's what it does. You're going to slow demand down. I think what they're thinking about is, okay, we're going into the winter. The cold is much like the energy crisis for the cold period of the year is much more severe and much more, I guess, I don't know, like the weight of it.
It's problematic. Well, the issue is if energy being cheaper is what led to these good, good
quote unquote
inflation numbers. What do you think's going to happen in October, November, December, January when the
demand
cold?
shoots up?
Because I'll be honest, it's not going to get better.
So I think that's what they're going to do. Like I think what they're looking at really is just, okay, so do you crush demand now? Like, do you have a meeting where you completely crush demand for energy, which I don't necessarily know if 50 basis points in August or even 75 basis points in August is going to crush demand for energy prices. So I don't know. Like I really don't know what the answer is here. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. It's just like, how do you brace for the demand of energy into the winter, which is really going to drive up the CPI numbers?
Oh yeah, no, I think we're. I think that if they not having a meeting, not raising rates, not doing something about this, they do at their own peril.
Yeah,
because the seasons aren't going to get better.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Oh, well.
Like, I'm not trying to spook anybody going into the winter, because what I really want to do for you, if you're going into the winter and you're worried about staying warm, is I want to recommend a website where you can get a pretty cool Drunkenomics hoodie.
Absolutely. You can get more than one. You don't only get one.
Yeah, like you can get as many as you want.
If you've got friends, if you've got family.
If you've got friends, if you've got
big
family.
Gifts.
Yeah.
Kidding. A dog even.
Dog.
We have some dog merch. We have some pretty sweet dog merch.
That is at drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com. It's drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com. That was pretty awful, but I made it through.
We do what we have to do.
Yeah. So Europe for the winter.
Kind of like 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so check us out there. You can check us out on patreon.com. So patreon.com/drunkenomics, DRUNKENOMIC.
Nice. Split it off into pairs. Nice. That's how you do it.
That is.
Yeah.
And that's if you
want to.
I don't know. Maybe you just want to throw some money our way, because look, inflation's hitting us in the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, we want to be in good spirits.
It's really hitting our animal spirits hard. And
animal spirits.
And so yes, if you just want to help us keep the lights on, the ice frozen, and the
fruit fresh.
Stock.
The fruit fresh. We need the fruit for the garnishes, man, for the Manhattans and the rusty nails.
Yeah, and we're gonna need help with. I mean, that's gonna be trouble come cold season.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
With the supply chain doing what it's doing.
Yeah. Hopefully 75 basis points fixes it. But
if not, there's always 75 more basis points.
Exactly. Keep going 75 every single time. But yeah, from there, I just want to say thank you so much for drinking alongside with us. I enjoy every single one with y'all. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Add us on LinkedIn if you want.
Facebook, Discord.
Yeah, Discord, exactly. So with that said, join the conversation. Love hearing from you guys. Love hearing your questions. And with that said, just want to encourage you guys to continue to play chess, not checkers. Remember to fill and kill. I filled and killed.
I've
Did
definitely
you fill and kill?
Oh yes,
my man.
I guess that only leaves us one thing to do now that the trading session's over.
And would that be to stay drunkenomical?
It's to check the VIX and stay drunkenomical.
Cheers.
Cheers.